I mentioned this morning, so somebody donated 10 copies. Do you have this one? I'm not sure which one, but it's coming this afternoon, so I'm sorry. Perfect. This is my nostalgia has me with the old one with Rashi print, but they're all good. I think this is excellent. Nefesh HaChaim. What I want to do is, before we get into the Nefesh HaChaim, which is tremendous limud, and if you've been here for the Talmud Torah and the Tzaddik, so like these concepts will come alive. We don't have to skip them just because of the hard words, but you really understand it. But there's a hakdama to, if you have this book, it's page 18, but it's a hakdama of Rabbi Chaim Valozhin's son, Rabbi Yaacov Valozhin, which I think, page Yudalit in that one, right? If the minhag of the yeshivos is to skip introductions. I don't know why. But we're going to skip around in it because I don't, stop introductory material, the flowery stuff I'm going to skip, but I want to get the point of it. It's, I just want to say this before we even start, that Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was known, at least to me, as the Talmud Muvhak. The Goyen had a few Talmidim in the Vilna Gaon that we know of. Nachum Mendel, Misakolov. There was a few great Talmidim that he had, and apparently, according to the Masorah, Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was the biggest Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. That's one thing that he was famous for. No small thing to even have ever seen or understood the Vilna Gaon, but to be at his Talmud Muvhak was very unusual. Is the unusual, but is also known as being the Avi HaYeshivos. There was yeshivas around since the time of the Gemara. Surah, Pumbedisa. There's always been yeshivas, but not yeshivas as we know them. Yeshivas that, if any of us went to yeshiva, the yeshivas that we know of, basically every yeshiva today, even the Hasidic yeshivas, are based on a system that the Rabbi Chaim Valozhin put together. For instance, which Masechtas you learn, yeshiva Masechtas, the 3 Sidorim, taking a lunch break, everything that goes on in yeshivas, except for the smoking, probably was an invention or a chap of a very innovative chap that he conceived what it meant to have a yeshiva. The difference that I know I heard from my Rebbe, that in Valozhin it was a 24-hour yeshiva, and over there they had Toranut. Some people learned at night, some people learned during the day. But what he felt was that this yeshiva is going to hold up the entire Yiddishkeit. It was basically the only yeshiva as such. There were many people learning Torah. It's not like he was the only one who was learning Torah, but as a yeshiva, group of people learning the same thing. They were Bate Midrashis. Rabbi Aibshis I heard Rabbi Aibshis was just a little bit before that. So he had over 1,000 Talmidim in his yeshiva, but it was a different type of beis medrash. Everybody was doing something different. But in Valozhin, there was a Seder HaYeshiva, it was a system of yeshiva. They learned Torah Nut. We dropped that at some point. Even the Indian, just eventually, I remember as a kid that I don't know if you remember, if you know that years ago, Bein Azmanim, Shmuel Birnbaum, who was Olav Shalom, who was the Rashiv of Mir America. So his son, who was a friend of mine, went to Brisk together. So his son was doing what Pachim do, Bein Azmanim, and he was accidentally shot by a guard. A guard at the Galei Tzan's hotel thought he was a Arab terrorist and shot him dead. He was exactly, in fact, I believe we had birthdays. Gadol B'Yisrael were one day off, exactly my age. I also remember that while we're talking about him, that I remember schmoozing with him maybe a couple of days before he was shot, and him telling me that we're talking about like what's going to be in the future and who knows. And so he says, I'm one person who knows exactly how my life is going to come out because I know my father's Rosh Yeshiva Mir and I'm going to take over. Being the Rosh Yeshiva Mir, he was a Hebrew learning, and it was very clear to him how his life was going to progress. And 2 days later, he was shot. shot, killed. So Rav Shul Birnbaum was needless to say, but it changed his whole life. He became the father, became like a completely different person at that moment. He was like became like a whole different kind of a person, very up there. But the reason I'm mentioning this is that Rav Scheinberg, Zatzal, so when this happened, so they made at the end of Shiva, they made a kinus in Bnei Brak. L'zecher Nishmas at the end of Shiva, and Rav Scheinberg spoke, and I went to the taxi that time with Rav Scheinberg, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and Rav Shalom Shvadron, and me. That was the taxi. It was a memorable taxi ride.
Were you the driver?
I was the and the driver. I don't know who the driver was, but there was zero conversation between any of them because Rav Shalom Shvadron it was Chodesh Elul. It was right after the Zman started. This was 7 days before Elul was shot. It was Chodesh Elul, and Chodesh Elul Rav Shalom Shvadron was a Titus Dibor. And Rav Scheinberg never talked all year round. He was just never talked. And Rav Shlomo Zalman sitting in the front seat. Nobody talking to the taxi driver. I don't know what he was doing. There was no conversation there. I was in the back. Those days the taxis had 3 rows. Anybody remember that? Like these big Mercedes. So I was in the back seat with the Rosh Yeshiva and the Rosh Yeshiva at that. Rav Scheinberg at that Shiva spoke, and he got up and he said that all of these crazy things that happen bein hazmanim because we don't have the Shlit'a Torah. And from his opinion, we should be mevatel bein hazmanim. There's no need for bein hazmanim. Somebody needs a vacation, take a vacation for a couple of days, but there's no need for a whole yeshiva world to stop learning for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. He says he thought it was a crazy idea and leaving the world like naked, as he put it, without terrorists. So he was mevatel bein hazmanim. I was sitting next to Rav Shlomo Shvadron, who was a Tainus Dibor, so didn't even speak. He just went. He wouldn't even speak. But he stood up. He didn't have to speak. He stood up. He was right next to me. He stood up as Rav Scheinberg said this, and he pointed to me. He says, "Aha, aha, aha!" So it was like Limdu v'Gabru on that evening that yeshiva should have no more bein hazmanim. A historical moment, and the next day in yeshiva it was Elul, it was during the Zman, but the next day, I remember that I didn't realize at the time what the things that I was able to see, like only afterwards. But Rabbi Chaim Shmulevich, that's how the Rosh Yeshiva Mir, came into the yeshiva. I never saw him do that before. He came into the yeshiva and he went straight to Rav Scheinberg. And I wasn't privy to the meeting, but apparently what he told him was that there's no way that you're allowed to be mevatel bein hazmanim because Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was masakin bein hazmanim, and we're meshubed to the world of yeshivas, and if anything, we should go back to learning 24 hours a day. That's Rabbi Chaim Valozhin. And Yeshiva was old friends, Rabbi Chaim Shmulevich, but Yeshiva. Rav Scheinberg considered him to be one of the Gadolei Ador, so he said, okay, he backtracks, and at that time, Bo B'Yom, they founded, Rav Chaim Shmulevich and Rav Scheinberg, founded Yeshivas Bein Hazmanim. If you ever heard of it, where it's a whole program where Bachram could learn Bein Hazmanim, and they even get paid, and they have organized shiurim and all this, but not like a pshara, so it was a historical moment. The point is that apparently, like what Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was masakin, became like Torah Sinai because he learned from the Gra, and it's important to understand this. I think before you get into the Sefer, that when you talk about the world of yeshivas, a chart in my office that I made, we talk about the world of yeshivas, particularly the Litvish yeshivas. So you have Slobodka and Brisk and Chevron and the Chafetz Chaim and Rav Kook and all of the Rav Soloveitchik, all of the however you look at the Litvish yeshiva world, it all comes back to the Vilna Gaon. Derech Rabbi Chaim Valozhin. So the Brisk, So the thing with Brisk is that they have what they consider to be the clearest Masorah. The Soloveitchiks have the clearest Masorah of one thing, what the Vilna Gaon said. That's the whole godless of Brisk, that they knew what the Vilna Gaon said. And the Vilna Gaon said very little, but what he said, he said. And it was like a Malach spoke, what he spoke. So the whole yeshiva world, as I say, even the Hasidic world has taken on the Seder of Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, whether they want to admit it or not. The same thing, same Ben Azmanim, same Masechtas, same Derech. And it was all La Fouke, by the way. The Derech that was before that on learning, this was the Gaon's big Chiddush, that not to do Pilpul. The whole thing was Keneged Pilpul. What's Pilpul? Pilpul is this ingenious method of learning where you build things. You know, you can just take this piece of Gemara and that piece of Gemara equals this piece of Gemara, and you're building. And the whole of Vilna Gaon's derech was to break down and to analyze. What we call today the lumdus of it. Lumdus means the deeper analysis of what's really going on, to try to understand it. So where one group was building, this group was taking down and getting down to its finest point and trying to analyze, to dinim, as they say. What's really going on here. That was the big chiddush. I don't want to oversimplify it. That was the big chiddush of the Gaon, Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, and the Svarim. We don't know much more about his Torah. He was a London Muflag, obviously, but we don't know anything about his Torah because he wrote on Shail and Shuvas, he wrote on Chumash, and he wrote on Kol Torah Kula, on all the Masechtas, Lumdus. It all got burnt down in a fire. Everything, the Valozhin house, like it was base Valozhin, was right next door to the Valozhin Yeshiva, where Chaim Valozhin had his farm, and the Sifrei Hagra, which were extremely important. It all burned down, and he lost all of his Ksav in terrible fire. You could Wikipedia this. It was a famous fire of Valozhin where everything was lost, except for the Nefesh HaChaim and the Ruach Chaim, which the Chaim Valozhin wrote on Pirkei Avos. There's two things that are left from volumes and volumes, and then somehow or another, they found, more recently, maybe 50 years ago, they found a Shilos and Shuvas, like with a few Shuvas of Rabbi Chaim Valozhin on Aguna. So where you can see like tremendous amount of Bekias of his Aguna. I've actually learned them here in the shul. So we don't have, this is what we have, and Rabbi Chaim Valozhin took this as a siman min hashamayim, that this sefer is extremely important, and it's a counter. It's funny thing about it is that it's not a yeshivish sefer. Meaning yeshivish, the word yeshivish means that you're working with the derech of Chaim Valozhin. This is full of Kabbalah, and it's about the workings of what an Adam is, Nefesh HaChaim, what Hashem is, what Tzimtzum is. This site that they say that he wrote it as a polemic against the Balatanya is shtus. It's just shtus. It's not what the Sefer is about. I don't even believe that there was a machlekes between the two of them. But we'll get to that as we learn the Sefer. But I mean, certainly he wrote it because he thought this was what the Gaon's derech was, which is not our derech, which leads me to the cheshbon on nefesh as to whether this shouldn't be what a yeshiva student should be his Sefer. Or his Masil Sisharim or Bishal Salanter was Mosif into yeshivas, the Musar Svarim, all of those things. But this was what the Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, Avi HaYeshiva, said this is the derech to go. And his son was Rabbi Yitzchak Valozhin. And again, I say this is always skipped. And even those Svarim that are Mefarish, usually not Mefarish, the Hagdama. But I just want to skip around them a little bit with you. And he speaks about his father. So we get an idea, and that's what we'll do today. If you go down, after he says all the flowery language, you go down to Hu HaGever, try to follow with me. Hu HaGever, talking about Rabbi Chaim Valozhin. Hu HaGever, Shehikim Oilish B'Torah B'Zmanai. My father, Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, this Rabbi Yitzchak Valozhin took over as the Rosh Yeshiva of Valozhin. And he writes himself later that he himself was a huge Talmud Chacham, but he had no time to write Svarim because he was busy like raising money and running the yeshiva. So we lost him too to the world of scholarship. But this is what we have from him basically. We have this little hakdama. That he's the one who started Valozhin. Valozhin was the yeshiva, b'Torah's Chesed, and he did it with Torah's Chesed. So please be medayik of this, that Chesed was a huge part of the whole yeshiva system, Chesed. Learning about Chesed, doing Chesed, and Torah's Chesed was a huge part of it. He's going to explain what he means by that. But it wasn't just like, the Litvisher world gets a bad rap of, the intellectual, smoking on Shabbos, learning Gemara people. But it's Bechlal not, and not having the heart and the neshama. Again, the Nefesh HaChaim is the source. And Rizvi Lodge is only the whole yeshiva was the Torah's Chesed. It was all about Upiu Pazach B'Chachma L'Meyos Talmidim. He taught hundreds of Talmidim with Chachma. V'Zacha L'Hagdol Torah L'Agmurei U'Lemizber. He was Zeicha to raise the Keren HaTorah, to teach it, U'Lemizber, to explain it. Oiz Izein V'Chiker V'Tikein. He listened. He did all the Chakiras, and he was Masakein. Ubanaloi by base Talmud Gadol Oimed Al Shlosh Amudim, and to understand Valozhin Yeshiva is to understand that it was built on the 3 Amudim, which are Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. So if you're missing any one of those 3 Amudim, it's not Valozhin, and it's not a yeshiva. This has to be, maybe someday when we finish this, we'll start a yeshiva, and do it, originally. It's not surprising that he was able to accomplish this. And here you have a little bit of history. That when he was a child, Nasa Oila Shalter B'Shkeda Nifla, he was a tremendous masmid. When he turned 14, Kava Limuda, he started to learn Im Achiv Hagadol Hagoin Marenu Reb Simcha. So Rabbi Chaim Valozhin had a brother Simcha, and that was his chavrusa when he was 14 years old. And they would learn day and night. Uskenenu sipru lanu. By the way, it was just a little diuk. This is a kenenu, I thought meant, and our grandfather told us, but it doesn't mean that, because that would be this wouldn't have a yud there, right? Our grandfathers, kenenu means the elders of the city. Kenenu sipru lanu told us shekasher lo yahav Elohin. They would watch these two learn, Rabbi Chaim Valozhin and his brother. Ekasher lo yahav Elohin or haner matzu, when they run out of candle for light, or halavana hayaf lahan. They used to learn by the moon. Lagirs Delilah, so that they should learn all night. He writes over and over again about learning all night. Laila, as we learned in Torah Mitzvah, is really the Iker Zman of Torah. So that's why he had this 24-hour. The Kiblo as dark as Shal Torah. And at that time, they were Talmidim, him and his brother, were Talmidim, Mirav, Rabbanan, Goyna, Goynim, Aryeh, Debei, La, Rabbana, Aryeh. Aryeh was the Shbal Shagas Aryeh. Shagas Aryeh, a little bit before the Vilna Gaon. So the Vilna Gaon used to say that Rabbi Aryeh is a leib. He's a lion. He was a lion in learning. The Shagas Aryeh was unbelievable Gaon. So he writes here in a footnote, this is also written by him, it's Rabbi Yaacov Valozhin, so in history, wrote this Hakdama, but he didn't print it until a number of years later, and then he went over it again, and he wrote the Haggais that you have there on the bottom. I don't know if you... So he writes here that the story was, what does it mean they were Talmidim of the Shagas Aryeh? Hagoin Bal Shagas Aryeh, Hayakama Shonim Ab based in Po, that the Shagas Aryeh used to be the Rav of Valozhin. And he was well acquainted with our family. Shagas Aryeh and our family were very close. And when he was the Rav of Valozhin, he printed he wrote the Shagas Aryeh. The reason why the Goyin liked the Shagas Aryeh because it wasn't pilpul. Important to understand that the Derech HaLimud was not pilpul. It was to sit and to look at something and to analyze it. Not this reminds me of that and that reminds me of this, and being by Migdolos Ba'avir, you listen to some people talk, it's like genius, but it's nothing. It's a lot of it shtuyot, because it's just one thing, this reminds me of that reminds me, okay, very good. But to really understand something, so that was the Shagas Aryeh even before the Goyin. So the Goyin held of him. And then the Shagas Aryeh left Valozhin to print a sefer. Another important historical note that there was only 3 or 4 places in all of Europe that the church, who was in control of print in the late 1700s, were allowed to print. So you couldn't print in Valozhin. You couldn't just open up a print shop like you could do here in Beit Shemesh if you wanted to. You had to go either to, and that's why, like if you visit Venice, so you go to Venezia, Tvus Venezia, that was one of the places where the church allowed printing to take place, Jewish printing to take place. Otherwise, they'd burn it immediately. If anybody printed a Jewish book, they would burn it. There's 4 or 5 places in all of Europe. So what happens, a Rav writes, that's why Venezia, you go to Venice, there was all kinds of Gedolim that lived in Venezia. There's so many different Gedolim lived there because they came there and it took a couple of years to print a sefer. They oversaw it. It's not like you just give it a Haber and he prints a sefer, right? Like they sat there and they watched every letter and how it looked at the font and the setup, and it was like a big, you were going with individual letters to put a sefer. So sometimes years to put together a sefer, and if somebody wrote a sefer, so it wasn't like in my spare time I write a sefer. They took off from their Rav, it was the B'Shagazari, the Rav of Valozhin. He took off a couple of years and he went to do a sefer, to print a sefer. That was his contribution to the future.
What was unique about Venezia that they allowed it?
The ghetto walls. The point with the cities that had the kind of print is they were in complete control of the church. So if you go to Venice, you'll see St. Marco's Square, and that's where the printer was. And the Jews were all in the ghetto. There was complete control. There was no...
So we'll let you be Jewish as long as we can control you completely.
Control, yeah. And you had to give it also to the church. And they had Jewish scholars, not Jewish, but scholars in Judaism, that would check it through and make sure that there was nothing anti-Yushka or anything. The idea was to eradicate the anti-Yushka. They were always worried about this, and that's why I always find the censor, all these things that were changed. So he left and he printed the Shagazari. It's fascinating, by the way. If you look at the old Sfarm time of the Shagazari, you open up and see where it was printed. This tells a story unto itself. Where these Sfarm were printed. Venezia was the best because, in my opinion, because that was a convergence of all the Sephardi and Ashkenazi. There was the Gedolim from Spain and from Shlit'a, all came at that time to Venezia to print all the way up until between World War I and World War II. They were printing. I found that print shop in Venezia. I went there looking for it, and everyone said, "No, it's destroyed." I found that it's still a print shop, and you could actually see they still have things from it's there. You just need a Michiganer like me. That'll spend.
You have a basement storehouse there where
they sell flowers. They sell flowers with a print shop. You can find it because they talked about St. Marco's Square, which is a big church, a big tourist site now, was a horrible place for the Jews because that's where they burnt every Jewish book that they could find. Also Meshuggah that one of the things that were printed in Venezia was the Rambam. The Rambam was all Ksav Yad until much later. Then it was printed, one with one pirush, one with another pirush. And there was 2 tfusim in Venezia, so one of them printed the Rambam, and then another one said, so it's a good business to print the Rambam. Everybody wanted the Rambam, so he printed the Rambam too, and they went to a Dintara, like who gets the schusim of the Rambam, and they had a big machlekes. So the first one, Jew went to the church to complain. A Yiddish Shemais over here. He went to the church to complain, and the church looked into this, a known story, and banned both the Rambams, and that's when the printing had to switch to Padua, and they gathered up from Venice. They went through every house in the ghetto, took all the Jewish Sfarm that they could find, and burnt them in St. Marco's Square. So it was a huge, famous burning, not just of the Talmud, almost lost everything, because so much that we had gathered, particularly in Venice, was completely destroyed in St. Marco's Square, and this was 2 Jews having Bamish Kamsa Bar Kamsa, like this crazy, we're our biggest enemy sometime. But that was we lost almost everything when you go there. I think I'm a particularly sensitive to Svarim, but if you go to St. Marcos, you go into the church, but if you go into the square, it's a big gigantic square, and you could see where they used to hang people and where they used to torture people and where they used to. The churches did all this. It doesn't talk about where they prayed. I guess here they hugged this one, here they touched this one. They had a special place where they would give out these burn people at the stake, like all kinds of things that the gentle church did at the time. I think there's no censor these days, otherwise we'd be in trouble here, YouTube. But you can walk there, and I was walking there with my wife, and there was a particular place where we walked, and I said to her, "I'm telling you, right here was the Talmud burned. Right here, you could be Margish the Tsar of the Gedolim of the Svarim themselves. You could just be Margish or something. It's clear. Investigated afterwards, it was pretty clear. That why do I say it was clear? Because the most of that St. Marcos Square was added on and built after this Misa, and that was the original Mako. And it says that they burnt it in this. It was also 300. It was the minhag 300 agalot of Svarim that were burnt, and it was a big celebration. Okay, so we have a lot of work to do to make up for everything that was lost. Unbelievable what we have. So the thing is like this: that the Shagasarye went out of Valozhin to print his Svarim. And Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was not old enough to be a Talmud of Rabbi Chaim of the Shagasarye yet. He was young. Midai over derech poi, but then the Shagasarye came back to Valozhin after he printed a sefer to start selling his sefer. That's what the Mecharim did. They printed it and they went from city to city and door to door selling the sefer. Even Chavetz Chaim did that. So Nizachsen Beis Adoni Zikni. So he moved it to. He slept. He was a guest at the grandfather's house in Valozhin. Kama Shavuos for a few weeks. Vayichanas Bnei Ayir v'Kava Hiraspa. He became sort of like the few weeks. He was the Rav of Valozhin again, and the place of Valozhin. Everyone came to me and called upon him. Haya'az Abu Mari Kfar Chameser. So at that time, my father was 15. Ume'ava Sha'avoy v'Zachiv Agadol, and Shagasarye took a liking to Rabbi Chaim Valozhin and his brother. Kavala Mishnasim Shtei Story. He learned with them. So the whole Talmud of the Shagasarye was a few weeks. So a few weeks with a Gadol Hador, you can change this whole derech. V'kad Haya Kfar Esri Mechamesh, when Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was 25 years old. Havagamar B'chol Talmud. By the time he became 25 years old, there's a baki in all of Talmud. U'paiskim Rishonim v'Achronim. This is son talking. Keep that in mind. V'yaloi Meitari Machiv Hagayin v'Tzadik. Dami Labar Eloyin Rav Shlomo Zalman. Now this Rav Shlomo Zalman was another brother of Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, and he was the Goyin Hador. He was a comparison to the Vilna Gaon, the only one that was the people compared this Rav Shlomo Zalman, Rabbi Chaim Valozhin's brother, to the Vilna Gaon, same type of Gaonness. And they asked Rabbi Chaim Valozhin used to speak about him as the Goyin Hador. They asked him if he was the same as the Gra. So he said he's not the same as the Gra. And he's not the same as the Gra, so what's the difference? Like, how do you, at this level, how are you mavchin between Rav Shlomo Zalman and the Vilna Gaon? So Rav Chaim Valozhin, I heard this is important Basar. I think I heard one girsa from Rav Shaiber, another one a brisk. So take your choice. Maybe they're both true. But the Rav Chaim Valozhin said that my brother knows Kol HaTorah Kula like we know Ashrei Yoshvei V'Secha. Like everyone could say Ashrei Yoshvei V'Secha.
Forward.
No, this is what I heard. In the Goyin hole, the Goyin knew Kol HaTorah Kula like the pasuk of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. That's what I heard from Rav Shaiber. Who heard from Rabbi Yerucham. In Brisk, they tell over the same story. So they say that my brother knew Ashrei Yoshvei V'Secha. You see, you're a Brisk. Ashrei Yoshvei V'Secha forward, and the guy knew it backwards. It means to say like everybody knows Ashrei Yoshvei V'Secha Oida Luchasela. Now somebody say backwards. Start from Sela. You got a headache, right? Can't do it, right? Sela, what's the next word? Shtickle going. I mean, can you imagine? Like, Kol HaTorah Kula. Not Ashrei. Can't even do Ashrei. But you can't even do Ashrei. So backwards and forwards, which means what? Doesn't mean just they had a photographic memory. It means that that the whole Kol HaTorah Kula, meaning Bavli, Yerushalmi, Zohar, everything was so chakuk, was so written in his heart that it was like right there. It didn't make any difference if you're reading it forward or reading it backwards. But Rebbe Soloveitchik touched up that there you can darshan from the story of Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, you can darshan the whole Torah backwards too. Meaning, like if you would take, it's like the codes, right? Take the whole Torah and you read it backwards, it also has a sense. Because the Torah is Kulei Emes, that he has a Kabbalah from his father, Briskerov, that it doesn't make a difference what direction you're going. Whereas the simple pshat is the forward pshat, but there's another pshat which is the backward pshat. Like it could go either way, which the Goin was famous for, that he would darshan a pasuk backwards to show that it also had a meaning. And that was pshat Rama's Drush Soy. So when he was 25 years old, he learned with his brother, who died young. He died very young, and that's why we have no direct benefit from him. Ma toiv v'noim, how beautiful it was, hayeshevas achim gam yachad b'Torah v'avoda, to see these two brothers learning oiskim b'Torah v'avoda. Ushneim kach alamdu Torah me'arav adoim l'malach Hashem tzvachos, and at that time, the two of them together learned with Malach Hashem tzvachos, Ir v'kadish min shmei Rabbeinu Hagadol Rashka Bahag HaGoin Maranav Rabbana Eliyahu HaChassid MiVilna. So those two learned from the Vilna Gaon. V'huzal, and the Vilna Gaon, Hetzel Mirucha Aleim, he gave of his Ruach to these two. Ruach Chachma. Ashrei Ayin Rasa Kolela. Fortunate is the eye that was able to see this. Harayim Ro V'simchu V'ashemim L'mishma Eizin Tov V'nefesh. He brings here, so when he went over this, Rabbi Yaacov Valozhin, he explains, if you look here in the footnote, that Abba Murray, he says, my father, Gadol B'Yisrael Goyin Shlomo Zalman, Zayin Shanim V'Tes Yamim. That Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was 7 years and 9 days older than his brother, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, who died very young. I don't remember what age. But Noilad, so Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, a little bit of history, was born Tuf Kuf Tes, which means 1749. That's when he was born. Yontif Sheni Shulchag HaShavuos. He was born on Shavuos, second day. Yom Shenosna Torah L'Yisrael. And Nisalami Tanu Ben Ayin Beis, and he died at the age of 72. B'Yoim Chaninusai, so that was in 1821. So he was born in 1749, died in 1821. B'Yoim Chaninusai Yud Dalet Sivan. A week later, in other words, on the calendar, then Shavuos. The Seder was Parshas Ba'aleischa Vayhi B'Tzaya Ha'aray. He B'Tzaya Ha'aray. So he was born on Shavuos, died by B'Tzaya Ha'aray. Shnas Kol HaKosav L'Chaim. In the year of Kol HaKosav L'Chaim. Anyone figure that one out? In the year of Kol HaKosav L'Chaim. So Kol HaKosav L'Chaim is everything. By the way, I heard from my Rabbi. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. But Kol HaKosav L'Chaim is Gematria 5581, which is 1821, right? Or is Kol HaKosav L'Chaim 5581? That was the Gematria of the year that he died. Kol HaKosav L'Chaim, Chaim Valozhin. Kol HaKosav L'Chaim. B'Yoser Min Limudai. He says more than what he learned from the Vilna Gaon. The ikar was that he was mishamish the Gaon. In the many long period of time that he was able to stand in front of the Gaon, Anherle Shvila Daraisa Benigla was flowing the paths of Torah Benigla Unasivos Plias Minister, and he became a makubal. See, what we forget is that the Gaon was a huge makubal. Why do I say we forget it? Because we don't talk about the Vilna Gaon as a makubal. They say that there's more written from the Vilna Gaon in Kabbalah than there is in Nigla. In Nigla, just to point out that the Vilna Gaon was like in the post Shabtai Tzvi era. So Shabtai Tzvi messed up everything. The false Mashiach was not the only thing that he did wrong. What he did wrong is he was Meshabesh, he was a Talmud Chacham, and he was Meshabesh enforced. By the way, he was allowed to print wherever he wanted. He pulled this off with the Christian Mashiach. Until they decided he was Antichrist. It was at one time, but they let him print everywhere, like he was like a melech. They held of him. The Christians held of him, and the Muslims held of him, which was one of the reasons why people believed that he was Mashiach. Like who was ever like that? But everybody, he was allowed to print anywhere, and he took advantage of this Shabtai Tzvi, and he took Sfarim, like Talmud Bavli. He took Sfarim and he got his name. He put his name into Gematrias and into Rosh Tevas, Tzvi, him and his father's name, and Shabtai Tzvi. You could find it all over the place. It was and he changed so many things. He messed up the whole Torah, the Shabtai Tzvi. So besides for being a false Mashiach, he found the Ramazim. He said, "Look in the Gemara, here I am." Well, yeah, it's because you printed it. That's why you're there. But people didn't realize that he was all over the place. So you could find his name in the end of Shlit'a there, the one we skipped. What's it called? Malache Rachamim. Like you could look, such a beautiful song and everything. You could find, so according to tradition, it was written by Shabtai Tzvi, which is why many people don't say it. Some people say, nice, Shabtai Tzvi. You could even find his name there. My father-in-law showed me how his name appears in the Malache Rachamim. So the Vilna Gaon wanted to be Machzir Atorah Liyoshna. The ikar of the Vilna Gaon was to bring back the Torah the way it's supposed to be, not to lose that Masorah. He was extremely makpid on the Masorah, Baruch Hashem. Otherwise, what's the connection between us and Moshe Rabbeinu? You have to have the Masorah. And he took every one of these Svarim, and that's why what you find from the Gaon mostly is Hagois Hagra. Like all Shulchan Aruch is Hagos. It should say this, changed the gears, checked everything. And he went to all these travels that he did, the travels of the Gaon, the Golos, he went from this city, that city, was to look for old Svarim, find it, and fix it. Now Agav, along the way, he shared many, many Chidushim, but it was very, very short, and it wasn't just because he wrote short, that wasn't his tachlis. His tachlis was to fix. And when he learned from Rabbi Chaim Valozhin, he spoke longhand, but everything was to fix. So what he wrote in Nigla was mostly fixing, which Agav was the reason that all the Gedolim of that time had to get Haskama from the Vilna Gaon, had to. You couldn't write a Sefer at that time without getting a Haskama from the Vilna Gaon, because otherwise they were Choshesh Yerushabsai Tzvinik. Like it had to go through him. And the only one who couldn't get the Haskama was the Balatanya. He didn't want to give him, that was the machlok. It's not that he wrote the Nefesh HaChaim as against the Tanya. Tanya's a good book. But he, for whatever reason, known to the guy, and it was so important to them because it wasn't the Balatanya, it was the Mezritcher Magid. It was so important to them that Chassidus should be accepted, and they had a point because the common man, the plain person, was getting lost. This was becoming very elite, the system with the Gaon. That was the downside of it, as you see today. All of a sudden, you have to have protexia. You have to call me. I got on the phone to get somebody to Gan. I'm telling you, it's a going, not going. Comes from Rabbi Yichus of the Bedi Dar. Okay, we'll think of them. We'll check them out. It's crazy stuff. So this is the downside of the Going's system. The Hasidic system was not like that. Today they are. But the Hasidic system was that this one thing they took from the Litvaks. Throw people away. But this was what it was. So it was extremely important to the Hasidim, who were being meifetz the Torah to Baal Shem Tov, that it should pass through the Vilna Gaon, and the Vilna Gaon should say okay, because otherwise everyone would think that the Hasidim were Shabtai Tzviniks, which many people did think that they were Shabtai Tzviniks. It was the same type of Torah, this Abulafian Kabbalah Torah, but like what. So that was the, and he didn't want to be maskim to Hasidus, because he felt it was whatever he felt was a different conversation. He didn't want to be maskim to the Hasidic way, and he wouldn't give. So the as far as I know, the Messiah is that the Mezritcher Magid and the Balatanya came together to the Vilna Gaon to try to talk him into and speak to him they figured to have a face-to-face meeting to try to speak to him of being masking to understand what Chassidus is. I'm sure the Vilna Gaon understood well. He foresaw some kind of a danger in this, but they tried to speak to him. And famously, the way the story goes anyways, that the Vilna Gaon wouldn't let him in to the room and never spoke to them. Rav Soloveitchik, you could hear this online actually. You could actually hear Rav Soloveitchik telling the story. But it's a big shiloh whether the story is altogether true. But Rav Soloveitchik starts, he says, he spoke, interestingly, Soloveitchik, all the shalom, whatever Rav Soloveitchik could hear, spoke at a Yud-Tes Kislev for brain in Boston, and how the world turns. And he says, I have the story, I want to tell the story, and I know the story is true. This is how he starts off, because I heard it from my mother. He said, my mother never told me anything that wasn't true. That's his raya that it was true. His mother was also a big Yucheses. But at the base brisk, they tell the story that when the Vilna Gaon looked through the peephole, and he saw these two, the Balatanya, the Balatanya and the Mazucher Magid. He saw them go through the peephole, he didn't open, and he went out the back window, and he disappeared for a couple of weeks. I don't know if they were waiting there for a couple of weeks, but they never came in to see the Vilna Gaon. The Hasidim like to say that if he would have only opened the door, that's what the Hasidim like to say, if he would have only opened the door, how much different the world would have turned out, the Jewish world. There was so much generations of machlekes, Hasidim, Mistagdim, now Baruch Hashem, no machlekes any longer so much. But those days, because the Hasidim are not Hasidim and Mistagdim are not Mistagdim, but that time was very, very serious. He would have only opened the door. Rav Soloveitchik said that Rabbi Chaim Valozhin asked him, why didn't you open the door? So the Vilna Gaon told him that when he looked through the hole in the door and he saw these two Rabbanim, the Balatanya and Mazucher Magid, I don't even know who they were. Like there was no photographs of them. He saw these two. He said that he saw their hadras panim and he saw the shine coming out of their face, and they looked like two malachim. He knew that he wouldn't be able to win an argument with them because he was so taken in by the way they looked. So the Vilna Gaon spoke about, he said, I knew I'm right, and I knew that I couldn't fight with this kind of aura. Can't fight with two malachim. So apparently he wasn't all cerebral either. There was a piece of it which recognized, but this is so, you got to be so Jewish to wrap your brain around this. Like on the one hand, such tzaddikim, how could I argue? They'll have it right away because they're wrong. It's hard to understand. So that was the Goin, and that was Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was Makabo. So Anir le Shvila Daraisa Beniklo Benister Plios Benister Hu Dechazi Rabbi Mekamei Begalia le Masechta Unehira de Chachmasa. Which is here for today. It's just this little word here. Begalia le Masechta, which means simply that he revealed to him Torah Unehira de Chachmasa and the rivers of Chachma. So the Rabbi Yiacov Valozhin on his second edit wrote in the footnote, he wants to explain the Gemara in Eruvin with this Salam. Gemara in Eruvin says, Ilu Chazisa Mikameh, this is the famous Gemara, spoken about many times. That Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, people asked him, how did you become so great? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Gadol B'Yisrael, wrote the Mishnah. How did you become so great? So he said the reason he became so great is because he was able to see Rabbi Meir, generation before him, Me'achoyre. So Rashi says that Rabbi Meir used to give shir. Meir was the Gadol B'Yisrael. Don't forget, Rabbi Meir was the Talmud Muvak of Rabbi Akiva. So you had Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. But Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was a young boy when Rabbi Meir was the Gadol B'Yisrael. So they didn't let him sit in front of him, like they used to sit in a semicircle in front of the Rebbe. The kids were able to sit in the back. So all my charifos, he said, I came, Reisi as Rebbe, as Rameir, Me'achoyre, that I saw Rameir from the back. Like, so what he saw was a silhouette of Rameir, and that's Rameir. And Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, that it's such a gewaldige thing, like you're right, YouTube is so much better than than audio tape. To see is so much better. So he said, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi continued, he says, if I would have seen him from the front, I would have been so much bigger even, but I only saw him from the back. So he explains here that the Pshat in that Gemara, this is worth, the extra minute here, Hu kinyan akasuv, it says in Parshas Kisisa, for Isias achayrai ufanai lo yiro, that Hashem said to Moshe, you could see me from the back, and you can't see me from the front. The connection? So what's the idiot that Moshe Rabbeinu could see him from the back? Like a kid, you can see me from the back, but you can't see me from the front. Al pi medrash shmois, eke asher eke, that Hashem was megala to Moshe Rabbeinu when he said, what's your name? So he said, eke asher eke, literally translates, I will be what I will be. It's a Shem Hashem, eke asher eke. Or since they pointed out halachically, since the whole thing is the Shem Hashem, eke asher eke, in Brisk they say, eke aker eke. Maisani Nikra, says the Medrash, Maisani Nikra, Seif Prati HaMaisa Hu Machshava Keduma, HaMachshava Nikra Ponim Shekardemas VaMaisa Mucher. So let me just explain this outside, and then I'll let you go. That in Machshava, so there's two parts. There's the Machshava HaKardemas, Machshava HaMacheras. Two parts to Machshava. The front, which is the face, and the back. The back, you see, when you see somebody from the back, right, like if you know somebody well, like your father, your child, you look from the back, you can say exactly the way he walks, but you can't see what he's thinking. Right? You can know, oh, I recognize your walk. You see a silhouette, but you can't see what he's thinking. When you see somebody from the front, and you know somebody well, there's bina. So there's, in Machshava, you find this in the Kisvei HaRizal, in Machshava there's two parts. There's the Machshavas HaPonim, Machshavas HaOchar. There's the Machshava where you could just catch the articulation of the Maisa, and maybe the words, but you can't catch the deeper meaning, which is called Das. Das is the inner meaning of what's going on. So when Hashem said to Moshe, V'ra'isa es achurai, you're not going to be able to eka asher eka. You're only going to have the silhouette view of who I am. Moshe was begging Hashem, let me see your face. What did he want to see his face? Hashem doesn't have a face. Pnei Hashem was, I want to have the Havana. I want to understand the total Havana in what you're saying. That's how much he was yearning to Sama nafshi lelekim lekel chaim masay avay ve'eroa pnei elekim. That's what David HaMelech said. Sama nafshi, I'm so thirsty to see the pnei elekim. What's the pnei elekim? The pnei elekim is the Havana. You can see a person's face when they're talking or when you're even listening to them. You can see their face. You can see the lines. You can see everything. You can see the panim. You can see the pnim from the panim. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't zoche. He was only able to see the final articulation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's what we have in our Masur. We don't have the Havana. All the Arizals and all the Zohar is only the back. We don't even touch the front. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Valozhin that he thinks that's the pshat in Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. That if I would have seen Rabbi Meir from the front, I would have had Mamash Havana and Torah. So Rabbi Meir learned this thing from Rabbi Akiva to be Mataris Hasheretz. Meaning, this is the pshat that we said before, that the Goin darshan the Torah forward and backwards. Because if you according to the Goin, who points out that Oineg and Nega are the same oisius, just questions where you put your ayin, the pshat is that there's really no difference in anything. It's the oisius are the oisius. So Rameir learned the mamish the pnimius haTorah as much as what was available from Rabbi Akiva. And if you read the Oisius to Rabbi Akiva, you'll see that it's all about the letters. It doesn't make a difference even what order they're in. So mainly you could be Mataris Hasheretz. It's not halacha l'maisa. but it's a Havana in the Torah. Halach l'maisa is we read forward, but to understand the Pnimius is you can read back. Oineg can become nega, nega can become oineg. So he said, I don't really have, Yehuda Nasi said, I really don't have the Pnimius that Meir gave over from Rabbi Akiva. I don't have that. I only have Me'achorai, like Moshe Rabbeinu had Hashem. And here Rabbi Yitzchak Valozhin says that Rabbi Chaim Valozhin said this about the Vilna Gaon. Except that he says here, Hu dechazer Rabbi Mikameh, that Rabbi Chaim Valozhin was able to see the Vilna Gaon from the front. A lot of people see the Vilna Gaon from the back. He was actually able to get the bina and the das of the Vilna Gaon. So to understand the Vilna Gaon, which we need to appreciate, to understand the Vilna Gaon, make kadima instead of me'achorai was one up on Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbi Meir Kaviyachol in that time, and that's how he's mefarish this Gemara.
Is he driving in the direction of the Ramat Shiloh?